episode of a Rehab Diary, the series. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest with us today. He's not only one of my personal favorite clients, but he is honestly someone that has just been a massive driving force in the way that I think I've developed as a person, as a business owner. And he's just taught me so much about personal growth and experiencing, or I guess tackling life's adversities in different ways, that hopefully today some of that wisdom from him can be shared with everyone. So on the podcast, we have Peter Gibbon. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, Alice. How are you going? It's good to see you.
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. You make me very humble with these so-called advice and everything I give you, and it's all well-intentioned, but very humbling that you think so well of me.
Well, thank you. No, we're so lucky to have you on today. And I think, just some of the wisdom that you'll be able to share with some of our viewers is going to be wonderful. So we start every question with the same question, and that is, what is mental resilience to you?
Oh, that's quite a question. It can be simply answered by being tough enough to get through it, but that's not quite right. You have to see the problem mentally for what it is. You have to break it down into bite-sized pieces if necessary, and you need to digest after you've analysed what the causation is, so that you can limit its impact on yourself. And that's basically how you survive long term and build up your own version of. It's about the best I can offer as a fairly neutral.
Yeah, look, I think, Peter, your story and what you go through day to day is a true testament of mental resilience. And that's what we get to dive into today. And I think you summed it up perfectly when you said it's something that you've got to develop yourself and for yourself and for no one other than yourself. And when it comes to mental resilience, and we were just having this conversation, is that it's not just about strength sometimes, and it actually involves sometimes embracing and understanding, but being practical through business.
Yeah, because you want longevity out of this process as well, because things don't get easier, they become complex. Yeah.
So tell us, Peter, a little bit more about you and your story, where you started and where you're currently going and what's currently.
Well, with my illness, it started back in, I was diagnosed back in 2013, and it was like a train hit you in the face. But we took on the different testing and everything else, and gradually the snowball that it is built and built. And one thing led to another, and I very quickly I lost my prostate and then some tubes, and then say roughly 6-7 months later, tumours, up to 24 tumours in the bladder, which had to be removed, and then got a bit of a respite for a while, and then it found its way to go to my left kidney and destroy that. And then it left me alone for about 6 or 7 months, I suppose. Rough figures these are. And next minute it came back to have a go at my bladder. So the bladder had to go then. And by the way, I call all this my Jenny Craig treatment, because every time the surgeons come near me, I lose weight. Go figure. Anyway, that's that mental thing you should sort of look at. Did I really need that? Nah, I get by without that. Anyway, that sort of thing. And then everything else sort of went from there. I'd had a small go at my right kidney, and then it sort of settled down now, living now in my lungs. So now it's having party time in my lungs. I've got a tumour in one lung, the right lung, size of my fist, and I've got 2 tumours currently having a party in my left lung, about the size of a billiard ball. I've never been a smoker, none of that. So just one of those things, eh? It's an aggressive cancer, so you've got to be aggressive. They call it a TCC. So you've got to be aggressive towards what action you're taking to have it either removed or contained or whatever vernacular you'd like to put on it. Yeah. That basically covers the medical side of it, you know. Except every time I go out in the rain, I get wet. And I start the day at 6'6", and I end up at 5 foot nothing, you know. But yeah.
Oh dear. And tell us a little bit more about your current symptoms that you live with on a day-to-day basis.
All right, okay. Routine, routine, big word, routine. Well, routine to me, it's all part of my coping process. It's a bit like building. I make these analogies. It's a bit like you're going to put a building up, but if you've cut yourself short on the footings, the foundation, well, that building is not going to be long term and it's not going to be strong enough. So I put a lot into organising myself every morning. I try to be up and about and active and getting the body working the way it's supposed to early-ish. I have a set breakfast. I rarely, if any, deviate. It's all planned out in a nutritious and balanced way because I can't have that much protein and other stuff. So you can't sort of, oh, bugger it, I'll go and do that. No, because there will be repercussions. And then once you've got that sorted, then your day basically sets out. Now, I have a list of all my appointments well into a month, 2 months ahead, because that way, carrying around all the appointments and who to see, what I have to chase up and all that, they're all baggage. And baggage, particularly if you're coping mentally with swings that can come your way, and I've been lucky, I haven't had too many swings. This baggage just gets in the road. It's like trip hazards that are everywhere in your brain, and you don't need it. So get it down on paper, get it on another source, and free your head up. Your head has to be in the right place nearly 24/7. There's no room for rubbish, excess baggage that is not relevant, and black thoughts. There is no room for it. So if you take that attitude and you free yourself up, then you'd be surprised how free you are. Like, okay, yes, I have to go to chemo every week. I go to the Icon Centre, and they're beautiful girls there. I say hello to everybody. I have this thing about I make a friend a day. I go and seek people up and say good day and introduce myself and all that, because I can make enough enemies in a weekend, no worries. But making a friend a day, it's a bit like knowledge. It's no burden to bear, just know more people and stuff like that. I go to the Icon every week. They take my blood. I feel like a Dracula convention, but it's all right. And I call them my Icon angels because they are that. They're very angelic, for want of a better way of saying it. People like that, and I've met a lot. One of them is this lady here, young Alice. You know, she has a lot of empathy and everything else for her people, myself included, old buggers like me. But there's a lot of those people I've been lucky enough to interact with, be under in a medical sense. Watch that, medical sense. And they've made the difference. They've made a huge difference. Little bits. Differences like that. Change happens in small amounts. If you want to terrorize people or confuse them, then you try for change overnight, and that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of confusion and resistance. But if you try little bite-sized pieces of change in trying to improve either your situation or theirs by indirect impact, then you'll be successful. You will. You know, that's just what it is.
With your behaviors too, like that's quite noticeable when you wake up in the morning and you analyze through different measures how your body is feeling subjectively and objectively, is that those are the little steps I think that you're talking about. Because I think sometimes too, we can say, take these little steps, which could not be further from the truth, but they have to be practical steps. They can't just, we can't just tell ourselves in our mind to take them. We have to be doing things about them. And what I notice with you is that from when you wake up in the morning, you almost analyze your body and kind of go, what am I capable of today? And those are the little steps that prep you to approach the day, the week, the month.
Well, I hadn't mentioned that, but I take I one of the first things I do in the morning before I actually have breakfast or whatever is that I look for my well-being markers. Now, my well-being markers are they're very straightforward. I keep a diary, or I should say, I diarize um, every morning. I look at my blood pressures. I look at my resting heart rate. I look at my output overnight. Um, and my temperatures and that sort of thing. And if these are all within safe parameters, then I know that my body is still progressing along in a normalish way, and I haven't got any potential spikes that are going to put me in hospital. So, as much as it's physically reassuring me that, yep, I'm okay to go and do what I've got to do that day, it also um, gives me a baseline. So if something changes in the negative, I know that something is happening that's not so obvious on the surface. And hopefully, I can preempt what I should be doing about it. It could be something as simple as rest. It could be something as simple as, well, I better go to the hospital. That temperature's not going to do itself, and my wife will make sure I go anyway. But yeah, so how can I say this? Memory is selective. You could ask anybody, what are your memories? And most people will say, oh, all these good type memories. You ask them about some of the bad memories, and they've already archived those over there, and they don't want to know about them. The thing with trying to tell a specialist or people with a specialist interest exactly when something started to happen and how it happened and what was the changes. You work off selected memory, or you put your facts down, your stats down, and they are accurate. You take your log out, for want of a better thing, and he takes it to his photocopier and he photocopies from that date to date when he sees the change, and he's got a baseline that he can work with also. So when it comes to medical, it's not about you take your ass to the hospital and say, you fix me. Well, sometimes they can. The idea is it's a partnership. You take yourself an appropriate amount of time to an appropriate medical source. You supply whatever you can in support of their help, and you work together as a team. And that's the only way that you have a fighting chance to get out of hospital. One of the things they put up on those little whiteboards on the in the hospital walls, they say is, "What do you want out of your hospital visit?" Well, that's a damn silly question. First thing I say is survival, and that can be on many levels. Either survive it mentally, survive it physically, or a combination of. Yeah, probably said too much on that, but anyway, there you go.
Oh, no, but it's so true. I mean, that's exactly why I created a rehab diary, is because we have selective memory. And I think that you sum that up beautifully, is that the thing with the body is that it's supposed to forget things or not allow us to relive things for a certain purpose. So, for example, take childbirth. If our body reminded us of exactly that intensity and I guess the pain associated with it, I don't think people would have more than one kid. But our body is very good at changing things over time to allow us to see what we want to see. And the thing with writing things down is that you can't take away the facts. You have a baseline, but not only that, us as therapists it allows us to understand that as well, and like you said, work collaboratively. And that's exactly what I wanted people, or I wanted to incorporate with a rehab diary into the health field, is that I wanted to give that ability to for the person to have that, I guess, behavioral component that they can do to feel like they're in control. And I'm sure when you feel like you're in control, I guess that kind of reinforces that mental resilience in what you feel your body is capable and can do that day.
Yeah, I think mental resilience, uh, physical health, um, quality people that you surround yourself with. Really, when you're not well, they're all just tools. Now, the bigger the tool, the sharper the tool, the easier the job, the bigger the job you can take on. So you can't put resilience, put it in a little box over here, and put my friendships in another little box over there. They need to be as big and bold as possible, because you don't know the future of what you might encounter. So yeah, I think you can't underestimate mental resilience. You can't bank on it only, but it's a tool. It's a tool you devise, you monitor, you grow to meet the requirements and the need that you will develop, possibly even in a perfect life, in a perfect world. There will be times when you have to uh, go up against some illnesses, yes, loss of loved ones, yes, uh, loss of income that jeopardizes your quality of life and that of your family going forward. These are all so different, but um, your mental strength has to stay pretty well forefront.
You mentioned the word tools, Peter. What are some other tools that you find are really helpful when it comes to dealing day to day with your illness and your, I guess, your mental and physical health?
Well, one of the most flexible tools that you can have in your arsenal is humor. Humor is another tool in your arsenal. So the idea is learn to laugh at yourself, because there's a book out written that said, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, while you're worrying about, oh, I'm going to die one day, got news for everybody. We're all going to die one day. However, the idea is, if you worry about it every day, if they said to me tomorrow, and they could say it to me in a couple of weeks' time, Peter, we did what we could for you, but you might have 2 years left. Well, I haven't got 2 years left if I start worrying about how much time I've got left, because you start to build a very appropriate cage for yourself with glass walls, and you stop looking for new relationships, you stop looking for new adventures, you just try to contain your life and enjoy it. Doesn't sound right. And gradually this cage of your own making gets smaller and smaller. And next minute you're not getting out of bed. And if you do get out of bed, you just go and watch telly and you wait for God. Well, I've got news for you. He's coming anyway. So get your asses off the couch, have a different attitude to mental issues, and live. because you're alive until you're not. Just remember that.
So
Yeah,
true.
well, that's about it. But with the humour, I've had blokes that are 3 times my size. They're gentle giants in a way, and they're being an idiot. There's other words for it. Starts with D and it ends with, yeah, anyway. Anyway, and I walk up to them, walk straight through. I was teaching and that sort of thing, and these blokes are monsters. And you say, "You're being an effing blank blank D," and they look stunned and they look at me. And everyone stops working and they'll think, oh, they're going to rip this little man apart. And next minute I say, God, thank God you were here. I thought I was the only one. And off I go. And before he can say boo, everyone's laughing at him and it's all gone. It's dissolved, you know. So that's how you can use humour. Um, it can be maybe a little dark humour, but humour's humour.
No, very true. And do you think, one thing we haven't mentioned, but do you think your experience, serving has helped develop some of your tools that you've taken into this experience?
Yes, resilience has grown with the that problems that have grown with me. Um, I've been lucky in the fact that I've always worked hard. I've faced a lot of adversity, been in situations where I could have got hurt worse than I did, but you pull on some of these tools like humour, like be mentally stronger, uh, empathy and friendship from people who you trust their instincts and their friendship. Um, but I'm very lucky in that regard. I literally know hundreds of people. I know my garbage man, and I know Greg, our mayor, and I know Victoria Cross winners, and I've met um, gold, our swimming team at the Olympics, uh, and stuff like that. And each one of them, they were just normal people. And we talked about normal things. And whether they come from that background or not, they just wanted or needed someone to talk to as well. So these people, I still know them, but they're not passing whatever. I just know so many people. In fact, I'm always getting in some sort of trouble. How come you haven't phoned me? How come you haven't visited me? How come? Well, strike me lucky, you know. I'd have to be cut into 100 pieces to go to where I've got to go. I've got dinner date that I'm supposed to go to, meeting I've got to go to. I help out with Legacy. I'm a member of Legacy. I mentioned at the Pioneer Valley Mentioned, which I was one of the ones who helped start it. I was only in a small way. Um, I'm treasurer of the RSL, and that gets quite busy, particularly around now in April. And, there's all that sort of stuff going on. That's other than the social side of it. So, don't spread yourself too thin is my overall message. Yeah. But don't be afraid to spread yourself a little thin because the busier you are, the more irrelevant, that's a big word, more irrelevant um, all these other things that you're facing are. It's just another way of spreading. Like if you were in a construction sense, you would call it load spreading. And that's a simple process whereby you take something that's small and can sink, and that could be you. You could sink into the ground and say, oh, it's too hard for me. Or you can put a load spreader under you, and that can be friendships and that can be obligations. And these load spreaders don't have to be thick. but they spread you a little bit further, a little bit further, and all of a sudden that same central problem that was causing you to sink is now spread to all different corners, and you stay above the ground. You stay above the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy.
If people have got an office. People have got an office, and they say, "This is my office. This is where I solve all my problems." Yeah, but maybe so. But if you go to their desk, that's piled up on their desk, and you know, are they really spreading their problems so that they can prioritize what they should do now, what they should do later? No, they're all trying to. Oh, I've got all these. I've got to look after. I've got to do it now. And all of a sudden, you got to use your keyboard, and you can't get to it. That's just sort of an analogy I was trying to say. You
Yeah,
know,
no, I think one thing that sticks out to me from that, and I think with everything that you do, is that spreading yourself thin, it's also in, I guess, a direct alignment with that sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose is going to give you or really reinforce those habits of the need to have that routine in place, the need to wake up in the morning and understand what your body's capable of because you've got things you need to do, people you need to, who might rely on you. Giving yourself that sense of purpose, I guess, also aids in that theory that you were speaking about, not keeping yourself into a glass cage and not sitting around waiting or waiting for an inevitable thing to happen. It really reinforces a lot of the behaviors that you have.
all of that is all down to the individual per person and their character and everything else. Some people will never ask for help. I myself also have trouble asking for help. I'd rather be independent. That's just in my nature, but not at my own detriment. You know, uh, and crying wolf all the time is exactly putting you. Oh, he's crying wolf again. Do we have to help him? No. You wait till you need help and you ask, and you hopefully get it. Of all different types. You know, that's basically it. I did have something I was going to say, and I've sort of lost it a bit. But anyway, not to worry.
Tell me a little bit more about the importance of your support systems within, let's say, friends or your beautiful wife.
Well, my missus is a brilliant lady. She's going through a bit of trouble herself at the moment, and I'm trying to be there for her as much as I can. Um, but she's always been there for me, and she will always be there for me. So she's a fantastic support system. Um, like I get a bit of PTSD and other stuff like that, and obviously things happen um, that I'm not even aware I've done sometimes. Um, but she's still there and she's still putting up with it and all the rest. So that's good. And that's on a personal level. I've got a beautiful family. Very proud of all of them and grandkids and all that. And they're all good, high achievers and um, quite compassionate people. They're all good. They're another part of my support system. Um, the medical staff. I've been lucky. Um, I've been lucky that I've got very much highly renowned surgical teams and other specialists and professors of this and professors of that. And these people have probably forgotten more than most people will learn in medical sciences and stuff like that. And they're all part of my support. And I talk to them. It's first name, and I'll ring them up or I'll give them an email and say, "G'day, how you going? What are we doing? And I just tell them straight, Well, for example, and I share a joke with them sometimes. I've been operated on so many times. I keep telling them they should have just put a roller door downstairs and just opened it up as they went there, but they didn't, or a zipper. Okay, zipper might be a bit dangerous. But anyway, the idea is I sort of keep everything light-hearted. So they wheel me into the pre area and ask me the same 25 questions again for the third time, you know, and occasionally I'll give them a false name and things like that. You know, that gets them going. Yeah. So what's your name, Peter? No, Peter. No, Igor. You know, not to worry. And then some senior nurse with an Irish accent and no sense of humour will tell me off, and then I've got to pull my head in. You know. So um, anyway, so I get wheeled into the operating theatre, and I've been here at least 11 times before, conservatively. Anyway, I got all the big equipment, and I always crack jokes like, "Yeah, got some big stuff in this time. You should do a facelift while you're at it," you know. And, but anyway, and then I have this routine where they said, "Oh, can you slide on the bed on the operating tent?" I slide across and put my arm out ready and all that sort of stuff. And then and usually just before they're going to put the oxygen on, I say, "Well, I hope everybody has a good day." And then they put the oxygen on me and said, "Count backwards from whatever 99, whatever." And then I wake up outside. They've already been inside me and done whatever, and I'm outside again. And but this one time, uh, about the 10th time, something like that, it was. They said, "Hey, hang on, don't put him under yet. Why do you say what? Hope you have a good day." You say it every time, Peter. We can nearly bet on it, which I do. I'm repetitive. Anyway, I said, "Well," "well, think about it. Just think about it." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, look, if you have a bad day, imagine what mine's going to be like." You know? That was my humour, saying that if you really have a cocked up day, what's going to happen to me? And next minute, under I go and off I go. And trouble is, just as I was going under, I see the scalpel in the surgeon's hand, laughing his head off. It's going up. I thought, not saying that again. And anyway, it was just
You
one of
learn real
those.
quick.
Yeah. Anyway, not to worry.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
But
Uh,
had some adventures along the way. Had some.
just your, I guess, your ability to find the light in the dark and to navigate your way through and to do it in such a way that's just so, like, it's just infectious. I don't know what it is. There's something about the way that you do it that I just find is just so powerful. And I just, yeah, I wonder, sometimes it is interesting. You go, when you, let's say you go in and the doctor's given you news that you don't want to hear, how do you, do you have any strategies that you do, but how do you kind of go, right, I've been given this information that's, potentially some of the most challenging information that I can deal with about my health status.
I,
How do I do
when,
this?
sorry, when I get information that I don't really want to hear, but it's coming, to me, it's a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Not too many pieces, but they're all different pieces, different shapes, different real. They make the puzzle easy to put together, or makes it. If you lose that piece, it makes it impossible to put it together. So I tried. This is a skill that took me most of my life to try and learn, and that was the skill of listening and not being afraid to turn around and ask a question of the person giving you that message. Because in life, you've got senders of messages and receivers of messages. And if you have a responsibility of as being the receiver of that message, and the message is coming from the specialist saying, "This is the problem, this is what you've got, this is what we've got to do." If you are not coming back to him or her and saying, "And when are we going to do this, and how is that going to be obtained," or whatever, they don't know that you've actually taken in what they're trying to give you. And everybody in this world has a purpose. And that purpose, when you're dealing with medical people, is that they train long and hard and modified their behaviour over half their lifetime, if it happens to be that way, so that they could give you an emphatic message that you needed to hear. And you're being disrespectful to them if you don't ask some questions. And people say, Gibbo, why do you ask so many bloody questions? Well, I get the feedback, and the feedback comes to me, and it's confirmed up in this little noggin up here what these people are trying to tell me. And then I can then store those little things up, look at what I might need to ask again later on or look into. And I'm sure I'll be asked 100 times over the next few weeks, oh, what did the surgeon say? What did this say? What did this? How is this cancer going? How is that going? And try and recycle it without growing it. Does that make sense? Try and keep to the facts, but clinical.
I think that's also where you have previously led into the past with me and taught me a lot about lockstep, is when you have that information and you listen and you ask those questions. I guess that's where, when it comes to making decisions of such, big capacity or scary capacity, is your ability to take that approach of lockstep.
Well, the theory with lockstep is based around construction. In my view, if you create the right foundation, as you would in a building, then the building can be multi-story and have all the integrity you need to have. If your knowledge is built on a strong foundation, then every little thing you do to it on top of that is built, built, built. That's how you got to look at it. If you don't guarantee you've got a firm footing, that's the lock, then you can't really step away or step off into more knowledge, because you don't know what you think you know. You've got to get that foundation solid, and then you move. And then you come from a place of authority when you're trying to ask something or say something. Does that sort of make a little bit of sense?
Absolutely, because I think where it's helped me, I guess, with your advice around that, I've taken that into so many different components of my life, whether it be professional or whether it be personal, because what I've learnt and what you've taught me from that is developing that foundation. If I have that strong foundation, it gives me the confidence, not only the awareness and the education to take next steps, but it gives me the confidence to know that I've weighed up every avenue. And then not only that, I'm not wasting time on that foundational level that's already solidified. It's the fact that I can weigh up those different options, whether, like I said, whether it's business, whether it's been, something personal, but I can weigh that up and go, right, this is the foundation I have. These are the facts. I've asked the questions. I have the knowledge. Now I can choose to stay there and not take that step. But that's where I think in my head, where you say lockstep, lock it in, take the step, then solidify that foundation. Because what I love about lockstep is that it has a definitive, for some reason, it has a definitive next step. I found, like, in a lot of decisions that I've found in my life, and this is where you've helped me with that, is that, am I looking for more information to give me that education to build a foundation? Or am I trying to look for information to just validate what I already know? And as soon as I hit, let's say 51%, that's when I go Peter's lockstep, and I lock it in and I take that step, because I know the foundation is sorted. I have to take a step at some stage. It doesn't matter if I'm at 51% or 56%, but I'm going to, build a little quicker and get to my end goal if I take that at the right time. And what lockstep allows me to do is not rush my decisions, but not prolong them. And I guess your experience medically with regards to that is that at the end of the day, like you said before, time, you can waste so much time if you want spending it on thinking about things that are just going to waste time. And like you said, at the end of the day, it might sound grim, but we're all going to die. So how are we going to use that time the best that we possibly can? And I know, it seems a bit, I've definitely taken what you've learned. And like I said, I've put it into so many different things that, every day is a decision. Waking up in the morning is a decision. Taking care of your health is a decision. Um, we make so many decisions every day, and it's usually the big ones that stick out to us. But to have a strategy in place to help us make those, and especially if you're someone like me that, yes, I have a fantastic family, but I don't have a partner at home who I'm there bouncing ideas off. Sometimes doing so much, I need to have the strategies in my head to know that I've done everything to make a decision by myself and feel comfortable with that. And that's what you've allowed me to do with Lockstep.
It was actually my privilege, Alice, to just talk at you more than I acted. I took the mental stance of being a sounding board, a vacant whiteboard. Whatever you said to me, I let it stick to the whiteboard or bounce off the whiteboard, and gave you an honest, unbiased opinion. A little bit like, does it pass the pub test? If the thinking is rational and the critical thinking is reasonable in how it's applied, yeah, then that's a valid statement to hang on to and use sometime in the future. That's all I did. That I was just a sounding board, you know, lumpy sounding board,
No,
but
you've
sounding
definitely
board.
been a lot more than a sounding board. um, Peter, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask the question to kind of leave our listeners with something. And I guess that is, what is one, if you had to leave everyone with one piece of advice or something that's always been a very important sort of quote to yourself, or something that you could just leave them with, what would that be?
Okay. Oh, that's a deep question, deep and meaningful, young Alice. People's true wealth, people's true wealth, no matter who you are, it is not based on how much money you've got in the bank. It is based on the quality of people in your life, not quantity, the quality of people in your life. That's a wealthy person, male or female. That's my advice. So look for quality people who may think like you, don't have to. You want someone who will stand up to you and tell you what you are either afraid to hear. Um, that's basically it. Yeah, they'll tell you things. You can pick your friends, as they say. You can't pick your family. Well, you can, I suppose. But the idea is that if there's quality people in your life, you have a rich life. Too bad about having a lot of money in the bank or very little. That has nothing to do with it. Some of the best people I've met in my life are so poor as far as financials go, but they're rich in their culture, they're rich in their humour, they're rich in their family. And that's what life's really about, you know. So,
So true. And not only that, being, providing that quality for other people as well, being that person that, gives them investment and effort and care and empathy and all of those things that I think, you cannot buy care. You cannot buy, well, you can buy care if you want to come to a physio, but you cannot buy the quality of care, the empathetic care, the nurturing care. That sort of type of, those sort of types of qualities it's what builds those foundations, and that's essentially that quality of life that you can't, like you said, you can't buy. And it's funny, I want to see if I can try and read it. When I went down to my granddad's house, my mum has, sorry, my grandma, so my mum's mum, I found this little mum, so they call it an autograph book, and it was where they would have friends write in, little quotes or notes or something, and they would keep it from each other. And in this little autograph book, there was just a really of what I can read from it, because the writing's so beautiful, it's hard to read. But there are a few things that I read, and when you mentioned that about that quote, it reminded me of this, and I just want to see if I can read it, because it says something like, where is it here? Life is a thing that I've got to get the, because it's just such beautifully written. I struggle to read it. Life is a thing that runs on wheels. Death is a thing that everyone feels. If life were a thing that money could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die. But God is so good, and he made it so that the rich as well as the poor must go. And I just loved it, because it just, I don't, and that was when, that was from 1928 or 48. But it just really put into perspective that when you look at things like time, the richest, the poorest, the happiest, the saddest, it doesn't matter who, but everyone has the same amount of time. And it's how you spend that time. And it's not about the factors that influence that. And obviously, it's about what you make of it. And it's not to say that, the rich can't be happy and the poor can't be, it's the fact that it's what you make of it. And with regards to, where you put or what you see as wealthy, and qualities in people and quality time, and giving the right people your quality time that they give you, that is, you cannot buy that. You cannot find that anywhere, and it's something that should be invested in when found.
Yeah, I agree. And the concept of waste management has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. You don't waste time, and you don't waste friendships, and you don't waste worrying about stuff you can't change. You will live within the parameters that life has set for you. So do so. Live life today.
Yeah, that's it. No, Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for just walking in my door for a start, but thank you for not only being here today and giving us just the tip of the iceberg of the amount of knowledge and wisdom that you have, but from everything that you've been through being in the defense, to then everything that you do for people around you, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's literally just, I hear when you leave here, you always say hello to whoever's in the waiting room, and you always have that, whether it's that bit of humor or that communication. And every single person that comes in after you goes, oh, he's a good bloke, he's a nice bloke, and they say it with a smile on their face, because you spread this infectious care and happiness. And not only that, like I said before, personally, there have been different things over the past, year and a half that we've been working together, that I don't think you realize how you've opened my eyes and given me knowledge and awareness to make decisions and to gain clarity, and it's practical and it's real, and we were talking about this before. There is so much bullshit out there, and bullshit is fueled by bullshit. And when it's coming from somebody that is, it's an experience, but it's practical, and it's that person that listens, understands, and provides advice. You've given me that, and I hope today that with some of our listeners, that they can somewhat see. Well, I'm sure they will. They will see that and gain so much from that, from somebody that, like I said, you have all the reasons to sit there and play victim. You have all the reasons to complain. You're not You have reasons that you can't get up in the morning and can't go out and be kind to people, and you have reasons to be cynical, and you have reasons to not do things that help the community and help other people, but you do not make that an excuse or a reason. And it's not to say that there aren't days that you've come in and it's been tricky, but it doesn't change the end goal, and it doesn't change who you are and what you give to other people. So that's why I wanted to have you on today, is because, like I said, there's so much bullshit on social media these days that sit there and fuel each other's egos, when reality is there is so much, good out there that you can learn from. And hopefully this platform can be that for some of those people. And I've been so blessed to have you on, and then obviously get to work with you personally as well through your journey. So thank you so much for being here today and taking the time, because you do have a lot going on, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Alice.